This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news and intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversations. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is finally Friday, November 22nd, and it's a little after 11 o'clock in the morning. Once again, this is C.A. Newry, and I shall be your host for today. Today, actually, we have two guests. We have a main guest, Mr. Latrey Ramming, who's Director of Communications at the Office of the Prime Minister, and he shall be on the show at about 11:20. He should be joining me on Zoom, and we're going to talk about this IMF recommendation. In about circa 2021, the IMF gave a list of things that they said the Bahamas needs to do in order to have its economy grow. It seemed, because it was in the headline, it's the same thing again, that nothing has changed much. But this administration is saying that they have implemented a number of things. And in fact, the economy is growing, even if it is sluggish. And I want to speak to the official spokesperson of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the government for that. But before then, we have the president of St. Anne's School PTA, Miss Samantha Cartwright. She should be on our phone line right now because St. Anne's is having a big event happening tomorrow, Saturday, up in Fox Hill, and I want to know exactly what is happening. Samantha, are you there?
I'm there, and good morning.
Good morning to you. You elected as president of the PTA, and now this is your first major fundraiser for your PTA. Is that true?
Yes, this is the first major fundraiser for the school calendar year.
Okay, so now tell me, what is happening tomorrow and where is it happening? Who all is supposed to attend? So give us some detail about that.
Well, so we're in celebration mode here at St. Anne's, having just been victorious with our junior boys soft baseball BASS team. And so we are in full mode of celebration. And even this year, we're celebrating our 70th anniversary. And so the first event, which is our major fundraiser, being held tomorrow, Saturday, the 23rd of November, is going to be our fun, run, walk, health fair, South, and Zumba. And so we have all those things packed in one, and we're calling on not just St. Anne's students, not just the parents and the teachers and administrators, but we're calling on the general public to support us. We want to foster healthy living in this 2024 year, Cecil. And we want to make sure that everyone knows that all roads lead here at 5:30 a.m. for our registration period. We have warm-ups for everyone. Some of us may need a little bit extra to get started for the walk at 6 a.m. And at 6:30, the fun run actually gets started. But that's not even. You may not be able to run. You may not be able to walk, but you may be able to Zumba, and that gets started at 6:45 a.m. And so we have.
You mentioned Zumba, but I don't know what a Zumba is.
Zumba is an exercise dance, and we have Nessa who's ready to get us fit and active tomorrow. So listen, if you can't run and you can't walk, you could dance a little bit. I'm certain we're Bahamians and we have flavor. And so we want everyone to take part in it. And so this is a fundraiser for us. And so our students and their parents have been calling on persons to sponsor them. Each student was given a card, a value of $100. And so we're asking people to still sponsor our students. But for tomorrow, for only $10, you can be a part of this major event. And so we don't only have that, we have nurses who are going to be here to making certain that we're healthy, we're fit, and we're getting ready to have a wonderful Christmas holiday. And we also have South and grits and, the Bahamian populars that are available on sale as well. So we want the general public and all of our alumni, all of our parents to get involved as we get fit, wear blue. Let's show them that we are St. Anne's School. We're still the School of Champions, and we're the home of the mighty Blue Waves. And so we're calling on everyone to take part in this event tomorrow.
So you're saying it's $10 to take part of for the
Only
walk?
$10, not $25. Only $10, and the only requirement, there are two things. You show up, you pay your registration fee, and put on something blue, because this is the home of the Blue Wave.
And can you give me the route? And how much
And
for
so
the
we'll be
South? Because I
traveling-
get in terms of spending money. How much for the South?
Yes, you got to come prepared. We're going to be traveling down Fox Hill Road onto Prince Charles, into Cumberland, onto East Bay, and back to the campus. So it's not a very long route. But we definitely know that we are going to paint the road blue. That's the important part. We're going to let everyone know that we're on top of the hill here on Fox Hill Road. 70 years we've been here, and we are trying to do what we can to raise funds for our school with this event.
And you say the South, what type of South you can have?
We have chicken sauce. We know that chicken, you have to get ready for the holidays, so chicken is necessary. We have grits with sausage and tuna, and who knows what other surprises we'll have here at our school.
Okay, so
come
you
ready
have
for
grits
it.
and sausage also, and steam and stuff
And
like that.
tuna.
And tuna.
We can have that too.
No sausage South though.
No sausage sauce, not this time.
I like sausage South, you know, just saying. Just checking to see if you have that. And give me some more details with Zumba. Can I do the walk and then come and do the Zumba afterwards?
Well, the walk is actually going to be happening simultaneously. We get started at 6:30, and then the Zumba is 6:45. For some of those persons who may not be able, we just want to make sure we have something for everyone here. But everyone is going to be able to get their health check with the free blood check, pressure, sugar, cholesterol. Those things are going to be checked by certified nurses here.
And all that's free? I mean, the health
All
check?
that's free. We even have sponsors who have provided items for us to be able to give away. So that's free as well. We have AML. We have ACH Pritchard. We have Lowe's. We have Aqua Pure. We have Crystal Select. We have Coca-Cola. We have so many people and so many parents who would have provided items. And we're still trying to get some. If you can bring it, we'll take it. Because definitely we want this to be an event that we're going to talk about for the rest of the year and help everyone to get fit and foster a healthy living and lifestyle for another 70 years.
So I'm speaking to Miss Samantha Cartwright, PTA president of St. Anne's School, home of the mighty Blue Wave School of Champions. And they're having their PTA, say it again, there's health walk, run, Zumba.
Fun, run, walk, health fair, South and Zumba.
And what time does it start? I heard early by 5:30.
Well, 5:30 is registration, but warm-up starts at 6. 6:30 the walk gets started, and 6:45 is the time that the Zumba gets started.
Okay. So I should see you at 8 o'clock.
Yes, you.
Because you know I don't like exercising. But okay,
You'll
5:30.
get the health fair.
Yes.
And the South.
And the South.
But definitely. So just don't meet me there, please. Beat me there.
Yes.
Tomorrow at St. Anne's School.
Thank you very much, Samantha Cartwright, PTA president of St. Anne's School. They're right up in Fox Hill. They're having their South and their health fair and their walk. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Mr. Latrey Ramming, Director of Communications at the Office of the Prime Minister, official spokesman for the government of the Bahamas. And we'll be talking about IMF. We're going to be talking about IMF because some people, I get all kind of WhatsApp already, saying, look like the Bahamas is in some financial crisis for the reason for the IMF to recommend that we need to go up on VAT, for the IMF to recommend that we need to have a tax levy on people's income. And I want Mr. Ramming to explain exactly what that means and whether this IMF report is something recent or this long time ago and things change and we got to ignore that and just don't pay attention to the IMF. And then also, who is this IMF? Who is this IMF and why they keep on reporting on us? Just the other day, the IDB was reporting on us. We just really want to have a brief introduction for the listening audience to understand what is happening. So when they see these headlines, they're not uneasy. This is Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry. We shall be right back.
Wait, you know what going down tomorrow?
Nobody, what happening?
Joe bringing these knives to school. He could do Junior in.
For what?
Wait, he fooled with Joe girl.
Mother sick. And you know, John, you don't back down for nothing. So that means you got a big fight tomorrow.
So whose side you on?
Side? I trying to stay in school, not Simpson Pen. We gotta tell somebody about this fight.
Tell somebody. I ain't no snitch. I mean cool, you know.
Wait, if you so cool, then you need to stay in school and stay out of the fight.
Yeah, but if I don't hang on Joe's side, him and he boys coming for me next.
All right, so we definitely gotta tell somebody. We gotta prevent the fight.
What I say, I don't want nobody call me snitch.
We could just call Crime Stoppers. You could report what you know, and nobody got to know it's you.
So what are the boy?
All you got to do is call them or you text them through the Crack Crime Bahamas app, and nobody can know it's you.
Then the police come looking for me for more info? And when they finish with them, Joe them coming looking for me?
When you call Crime Stoppers, the call go directly to Miami, and they don't ask nothing about you. Then you can get the pen from them, and they can claim a reward later using that same pen.
Plus, everything's scrambled, so nobody can read what you're saying.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the family.
The rest, roll with the best. For all your printing needs, there ain't no one better, no. For posters and banners, magazines and flyers. For window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it. Just give us a call. Let Print Masters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
1 in every 4 Bahamians face some level of food insecurity. AML Foods remains committed to helping. And this year, through our Feed 5,000 program, we'll donate $30,000 to provide holiday meals to families in need. But we need your help. From November 4th to December 18th, show your support and donate at the register at Solomon's, Costrite, Fresh Market, Exuma Markets, or Domino's Pizza in Nassau, Grand Bahama, or Exuma. Together, let's put an end to hunger.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Welcome back to Guardian Radio AM, of course, on Zoom. Trey Ramming, let me just want to confirm that he's there. This is the Director of Communication at the Office of the Prime Minister. Mr. Ramming, are you there?
Hey, I'm here. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, and thank you very much. I know it's last minute, so hey, can you quickly come on and explain this to us? Recently, the IMF put out a report. I want you to do commentary on that. But before you do that, a number of my listening audience weren't sure exactly what is IMF, the reason why they give commentary on the Bahamas and countries like the Bahamas. Is this something that we pay for, or they just willy-nilly just go and pick on small island states and say, man, let's talk bad with them? So can you give us a rundown on the IMF, the IDB, and why so many reports tend to come out? And then we'll start the conversation after that.
Okay, thanks so much. So the Bahamas is a member of a number of international financial institutions, IMF included, the Caribbean Development Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and so as member states, in some instances like the IDB and the CDB, they would have from time to time provide the government of Bahamas with financial loan arrangements. The IMF, while the Bahamas is a member of the fund, we've not been in a structured program like other Caribbean countries. So their report on the Bahamas is basically used to signal to international credit markets that the state of the Bahamian economy and whether or not the long-term economic viability of persons when lending the Bahamas government money. And so, more importantly, the reports are important for international markets to know that the Bahamas, and the extent to which they allow investors and persons wanting to lend the Bahamas government money, the soundness of the economy, and the direction of the economy. And because you are a member of the international fund, obviously they're giving their members a report, advice, and overall feedback what is published. Before the report is published, the IMF would meet with a number of stakeholders, the buying central government, the various stakeholders, to really get a general feedback as to the performance of the overall economy and government measures. And then at the conclusion of that, they would have their final report.
So this is a thorough report and something that Bahamians should take note. It's nothing that you ignore. This is an official report based on the report of the Bahamas.
Yeah, based on the conversation. So, for example, the IMF, if anyone who's aware of the history of the IMF in other countries, They think Jamaica was historically under an IMF program, which requires the country, the borrowing country, to enter a number of austerity measures. The Bahamas have never been in an IMF program. Gratefully, we've been able to weather the economy or the stewardship of the economy successfully to avoid the Bahamas defaulting on its payments and having to go to an IMF program. And so, yes, these are very important reports to look at. Yes, the recommendations, successive administrations have gotten the same level of recommendations from the IMF on measures that the government should take. Obviously, this administration neglected to take such advice because we believe that we could get revenue without imposing very harsh measures on the Bahamian economy. In Jamaica, when they were a part of an IMF program, they had to reduce their private by significant amounts. They had to implement a number of very brutal taxes. So fortunately, it's worth noting, Newry, that when the Bahamas when the PLP came to office, the state of the economy was at such that the Bahamas was knocking on the door of such a program, and the Prime Minister was able to really focus the economic recovery in a manner in which it didn't require the government to implement any painful economic short-term measures. We were able to reduce VAT from 12% to 10% to get more spending.
Mr. Ramick,
go ahead.
Before you go there, and I want you to say exactly what you're saying, but before you go there, I have my listening audience want to know whether this IMF report that was reported in the newspaper is something recent, or this is the 2021 report that just came back again.
This is a recent report. This is the 2024 report. You say you usually get some of these institutions would probably provide a report maybe twice a year, I believe. So this is a much recent report.
So that means these are recent recommendations that the IMF has given to the Bahamas, that these are things that we should do. Would they recommend, whether we take it or not, but these are recent recommendations.
No, I wouldn't use the word "it should." These are things that the Bahamas government could do to aggressively get to a point. So, for example, when we came to office, the debt to GDP, the size of the debt, the size of our country's debt in comparison to the economy was around about over 100%. Your debt was larger than the economy.
Yes.
We was able to reduce that from 100% to below 90%, now below 80%. Mm-hmm. What the bank is saying, yes, this is commendable. This is, for the government of the Bahamas to be able to do this in a short period of time is good. But if you want to aggressively get this to a lower amount, you could do these things. You could increase VAT. You could introduce an income tax. You could look at these other measures. And so, those recommendations are things the government of the Bahamas can do or could do. And I think the PM said to them, listen, these are the recommendations that you've been given the government of the Bahamas from I first entered politics. So, they say, we got to do what we got to do, and you got to do what you got to do. And so these are just mere recommendations.
In the CM newspaper, it said that the Bahamas needs structural fix to prevent a 1.5 growth slope. And I understand that the Prime Minister has concluded that a number of these recommendations that we're not going to consider. But when there are people that's quoting 1.5 growth slow, and then the government's first quarter deficits more than triples to $194 million, right? Should we be concerned? A number of Bahamians, that sip who like gossip, say, man, the government is cash strapped. We are concerned and we short of money. Should we be concerned that we short of money?
You shouldn't be concerned. I mean, the overall growth performance of the Bahamas is tied to the global growth performance. Do you anticipate if for example, the World Bank or the IMF or measured that rather than projecting a global growth of 3%, they're going to reduce it to 2%. So you're going to have a fall off because of the world is still waiting to see whether or not the incoming Trump administration enter into a tariff war with a number of its trading partners. So there's a lot of economic variables still pending. And so, whilst the Bahamas, we are part of a global community, literally, we don't control. So some things are buffer recommendations. So for example, let's look at the first line of the IMF report, which indicates that the Bahamas economic recovery has been remarkable. For international bank to even use that verbiage, it's something that we should be proud of. But at the same time, it still speaks to the level of progress we've been making. It doesn't make the Bahamas immune from external economic shock. We can't control trade wars. We can't control the impact of climate change on our economy. So there's some record, and the overall growth is whether or not do you want to. I don't think austerity is the way to growing an economy, right? One is able to improve the buying power of Bahamians, alleviate their overall personal expenditure and the amount of money they're spending. Adding more austerity right now will only further slow down the economic growth. So let's say, for example, if we were to accept the IMF 15% increase in VAT, right? When the F&M increased VAT from 7.5 to 12%, there was an immediate contraction in the economy because people started to spend less. Mm-hmm. And so you're not going to stimulate spending in the economy by moving the percentage up from 10% to 15%, because people are just going to say, you know what, rather than going out 5 times this week, I'm only going to go out once. So the consumer behavior will change. And so when the government came to power, we removed VAT from 12% to 10%, and we saw a significant yield in the revenue. Another reason why we aren't very keen on the IMF recommendation, as the government of the Bahamas, is because there's a lot of revenue that exists in the economy now that's not being properly captured. So before you start to even consider additional revenue measures or revenue enhancement measures, you got to discuss how you improve your current system, because we still have leakages and custom, for example, revenue coming in on the family islands because of the nature of our policing these areas. And so, or when we look at real property tax, the number of arrests around that. So the reason why we've been able to see the significant success is because we've improved tremendously how we are capturing the existing revenue in the economy.
And Mr. Rami, I want to congratulate the government for that. But when the VAT was initially introduced to the Bahamian public, the government, I think it was the first the Christie administration at the time, mentioned that VAT is to pay down on our deficit. Right?
Deficit, yeah.
It seems like that has changed, that the deficit continues to grow and that we're not paying down, right? The Bahamian public was excited, saying, okay, we get this VAT, I understand what it's for. And it seems as if that, what we bought into is not happening. Is the VAT still for paying down the deficit?
Yeah, so great point. I think it leaves us a larger conversation. When the when VAT was introduced, it was introduced in the Bahamas to deal with its deficit and to pay on its annual, debt payments. What we also have to factor in, and I don't know whether anyone reads the fiscal strategy report, which was introduced, I would say, under the F&M, but the fiscal strategy report, maybe it'd be introduced on the PFFI, but that's just for sake. This documents speak to the external vulnerabilities of the Bahamas. So it says, whilst your economy is performing this way, if any of these items or scenarios were to happen, it will have a tremendous impact on your government's ability to pay down the deficit. So when the PLP introduced VAT, it didn't account for Hurricane Joaquin. Neither did it account that we were going to have a Hurricane Matthew. These hurricanes are external vulnerabilities that add immediate pressure on the existing ability for the government to pay for deficit. So before Matthew, the then PLP administration reduced the deficit by a very significant amount. When a hurricane happens, you have to factor in that you gotta the economy is closed for a period of time. The government got to invest in recovery and rebuilding, and so that immediately causes the deficit to exceed because now the government have new expenses that it didn't have before a hurricane impacted the Bahamas. So it brings us to where we are now, Hurricane Dorian. These two events, which Hurricane Dorian is nature, what they call a once-in-a-lifetime sort of crisis, and the pandemic, which was also a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, these were variables that cost the Bahamian economy significant loss. And so whilst we have revenue measures that speaks to improve collection and collection of money, we still have to factor in that we are vulnerable to wars, we are vulnerable to climate-related events, we are vulnerable to pandemics. Now, on that backdrop, Newry, what the government announced today, which was a very innovative way of raising money, which was something described as a climate arrangement conservation debt swap, right? Where banks like the IDB will guarantee the Bahamas' ability to raise funds in the market, giving the Bahamas a percentage on the amount of it's paying back on its loan arrangements, allowing the Bahamas to capture significant savings. So rather than the Bahamas borrowing money, I'm just using numbers, rather than the Bahamas borrowing money at about 9 or 8%, right? The IDB saying, listen, man, we're going to guarantee their ability to do this. So the creditor now has confidence in the ability to give the Bahamas money because the bank is saying, I'm going to guarantee this payment, right? That's going to reduce the percentage that the Bahamas is probably paying from about, let's say, about 7% to about 4%. And the savings in that means that the IDB is saying, okay, the IDB and the Nature Conservancy is saying, we're saving the Bahamas money. We want the Bahamas, with that saving, to invest back into climate resilience, building proper infrastructure on the family islands, making sure that fishermen have what they need. So we found creative ways to raise money, Bahamas money in a long period of time. So we look at these recommendations that the IMF is proposing, but we have other ways that we're confident in as an administration that we're able to address their concerns in a way that doesn't add more financial strains on the backs of Bahamians.
The IMF gave a number of recommendations, and I'm going to have Aaron read some of the recommendations. I see that we are hard pressed that we're not increasing VAT, which is good, something to celebrate on. But I want to put on the record so the listening audience can hear exactly what all did the IMF recommended, and if there is any commentary from the government in concerns of these other recommendations. Go ahead, Aaron, read that for me, please.
All right, we're reading from the article, OPM No Plan to Raise VAT, November 20th, 2024. The recommendation to increase the VAT rate was made by the IMF in its staff concluding statement on the 2024 Article 4 mission. It recommended several measures to help the government meet its debt target of 50% of GDP by fiscal year 2031. The IMF recommended replacing the business license fee with a 15% profit tax on large domestic firms.
Any commentary on that?
So as of now, there's been no move towards the government to that recommendation. The only thing that the government has done, and which has been implemented recently, is the domestic tax, corporate tax, which focuses primarily on international, multinational businesses multinational institutions doing business in the Bahamas, which brings us in line with the global corporate tax system rather than having to impose on it. The Bahamas was very proactive in implementing its own domestic corporate tax. So insofar as that recommendation, there's been no move towards that, and there's no internal consideration towards the recommendation.
Okay, let's continue. Go ahead.
Introducing a personal income tax for the top earners.
What about that?
No internal conversation on the matter, but I'm certain that there's a number of studies that exist as to how the Bahamas can have a progressive tax structures. But as of now, there's no internal conversation on moving towards that.
All right.
Let's continue.
Eliminating the ceiling on the property tax.
No internal conversation as on that one.
All right. The next one in the article, reducing tax expenditures.
Do they have a wider summary as to what they recommend? That is a bullet point form.
Well, no,
I think
not at this point in the article.
No, the general position of the government on all of the recommendations, and you could still go on so your listeners and the benefit of the listening audience, that the government of the Bahamas was not considering any of the recommendations insofar as revenue enhancement measures being proposed by the IMF.
I think the two that are the wider public would be more focused on, right? Raising water rates for heavy users and ensuring the collection of patient fees within the public hospital authorities. Now, I'm a good Bahamian, and every time you ask, I can tell you I bathe. I bathe all the time. I was a heavy water user, right? What category of consumers does that reference? And then secondarily, are you all considering it? And then the second is the collection of patient fees within the PHA.
So those two are let's examine for two separate issues. Two long-standing issues, two separate issues.
Mm-hmm.
These are both the water tariffs in the Bahamas are structural challenges, both for the Family Islands and the Providence. And I think you guys would have remembered recently over the summer period when there was conversation of a report, which would have been by the IDB or one of those, recommended an increase of the tariff on water or along those lines. And the Prime Administration was not giving any consideration to the increase in the tariff. So that matter is resolved. We all know that the issue of payment in the public healthcare service, that's nothing new. As you are aware, the government has a obligation to provide access to care, and don't deny care. And neither will we put a Bahamian out because they owe PMH money, and that is just an accepted norm that comes with a heavy subsidized price for taxpayers. We don't have a national. We have a primary care provisions and that we provide to Bahamians who register as a part of NHI, but that leakage exists in the PHA because we don't deny care to Bahamians, and I think that's something that we have a fundamental belief in and a pride in, and we just happen to be a society that has developed a number of PMH.
Okay. A number of... Oh, you'll find one? Okay, well, go ahead.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Go ahead. I'm here, Aaron.
Cool. I'd like to ask you to respond to this excerpt of a statement from the IMF. In the same article I was reading from, the IMF said, quote, income per capita continues to diverge from that in the U.S. At the same time, expensive electricity, a shortage of skilled labor, and obstacles to business formation and expansion continue to weigh on growth. Now, while this statement wasn't included explicitly in the list of recommendations, right? Is the state considering how it will address these matters to respond to the ways in which they may inform the wider recommendations. So, for instance, Mr. Newry and I have talked about us not having a migrant crisis, but having a organized labor shortage, which has resulted in like a skilled labor crisis, right? How will the state respond to that indication by the IMF?
There's two things. Let me deal with the issue of the electricity first. It's not one of the things. The reason why the government is aggressively dealing with the issue of energy is because it speaks to our overall economic growth. It's a deterrent for business, and it absorbs of Bahamians buying power.
Latre, we understand that. The question is the question is not why energy reform. We all know that. The question would then be, why is energy reform being taken up in the way that it is? And I don't think that's really a part of the conversation we want to have today. We get the electricity.
You accept that the government is moving forward with some reform.
Oh no,
you question the approach in which they're doing it.
Right. We know that we've been in a 30-year energy crisis. We all understand why we need energy reform.
So you want to talk about the skill challenge?
Yeah, let's not get into the rationale behind why energy reform is taking place the way it's taking place. We don't need to get into that. But let's speak specifically to the skilled labor shortage and how addressing what some of us recognize as an organized labor crisis will inform your response to the IMF on the other recommendations.
So, over the last 10 years, both the IDB and I think the IMF has speak to the level of productivity development in the Bahamas. And we've seen a reluctance with the current Bahamian to perform some form of work. For example, we've seen that challenge in the construction industry. There's some jobs more and more that Bahamians aren't willing to do. That is leaving an overall shortage. And one of the things that we have done was looking at how do we use BTVI as the vehicle to build on those gaps that exist in the industry, expanding accessibility for Bahamian students wanting to capitalize on the skill training at BTVI.
So, Mr. Rami, let me ask a quick question. So, the skilled labor shortage, is it a matter of a lack of access to training opportunities, or is it that people refuse to even take on the task of skills building if the employment sector that they are in will be limited, right? Like the pay wage is limited. See, that's where the IMF discussion comes in. Are people not taking these jobs because they cannot get the training, or is it that they're not willing to take on the expense of getting the training if the wage is capped? Right? If what they're being told is that if you get a job in this area, what you expect to be paid is not what you're going to get paid. So that's two separate issues.
No, I think
we could address the skills building with educational programs, but how do we address this wage is not what I think interested in taking on the job?
But no, I mean, I think it's a combination of both. I think it's a combination of one, the industry going wage insofar as the wage being paid, it may not be attractive, and that will certainly probably is a part of the conversation.
Right, because what the IMF is also sort of telling us is that the economics class that you're in, you should not expect for jobs to garner more than this amount of money, and Bahamians are saying we expect our skills to garner more money. That's different from whether we could get the training or not. Making the training accessible at home, which may be more affordable, is not attractive to Bahamians and may not necessarily provide the same level of skills that they could attain elsewhere.
So let's separate. Let's detangle the issue, because it's a number of things that that you're alluding to. One is the fact that if a skilled Bahamian, if a Bahamian is skilled in a role, understanding?
Or not just that they're being underpaid, right? But that the wages that are set in that industry are so low, right? And see, like, 'cause what the IMF is telling us is that, like, this, what they're really telling us is, hey, y'all think that y'all are Americans and Europeans, but y'all are Caribbean people. Your economic expectations are far beyond what it is you are able to produce. And so while the issue, it appears, is being presented like we don't have the skills because we don't have the opportunities to gain the skills, what I'm suggesting is it's slightly more nuanced, that people are not willing, that the skills are accessible. People are not willing to pay the expense. Why would I spend $20,000 to get a certificate where I could only make $5,000 a year with the certificate, right?
No, I mean, there's two things that we have to look at, right? One, let's accept, and the government accepts that we are currently in a cost of living crisis, right? That means your wage is being outpaced by the realities of the economy, right? So what you currently would make does living expenses, right? So I think that when you
needs, right? Like
needs,
hospitals.
Right? Yeah. So when you pull back the issue, it has multiple layers, right? Let's look. We have scenarios where there are jobs available and there are unskilled laborers, right? And there's a scenario where we have skilled laborers, and limited jobs availability for those issues, right? And then we have skilled laborers, and the skilled labor is not being paid or is being paid below the industry rate. So, for example,
well, that's not it. The point is that the industry rate, right? That it's the industry rate. It's not that they're not being paid the industry rate. It's that the industry rate, as I feel, there's a disconnect. Again, the IMF is telling Bahamians, y'all think y'all are developed, fancy, rich people. The wages that will be earned by people in this field are capped or limited at this point for people in your region. That's different from.
That's. I think Aaron, it's just take that the size of the economy will really define, in some instances, the wages of the economy. So what you being paid? So the CFO being paid at a bank in New York and the CFO being paid in the Bahamas may carry, in some instances, if it's a foreign bank and it's all pegged to be the same, that mirrors their international pay rates. But if it's a local bank, it's gonna be different. So we have to accommodate that there are some different economic realities, because the size of economies dictate the economic realities nonetheless. That's one thing that we should take into account. So I don't think that the IMF was trying to be condescending.
No, I don't think. No, sir. I want you to know, I don't think the IMF was trying to be condescending at all. I think the IMF is being pragmatic, and it is us that need to actually acknowledge what it is the IMF is saying. We're not talking feelings. There's no condescension here.
No.
I think it's a matter of being pragmatic and realizing what it is they're actually saying to us.
So I think, and if we back, right, in a couple of weeks, the PM is going to deliver an economic speech, right, where he will talk about in depth the structural economic challenges in the economy, because a lot of this is extremely structural, and this is post-independent structural realities that continues to exist, and the steps the government is taking to do so, right? The elephant in the room, and which the Minister of Education is taking on, is one, there is a tremendous need for education reform, right? And there's a tremendous need for the Bahamas to transition to a knowledge-based economy, right? And the over a long period of time, impact the skills development of the population, because the tourism is an industry that, in some instances, does not require to be highly skill driven.
I can let you say that. Because it is highly skill driven. What it is that the tourism industry doesn't require. No, but what I'm saying is the tourism industry doesn't require those skills from the location that the hotel is in. They get their highly skilled labor from other places. That's what the problem is with the tourism industry
what brings us to the next hard truth, right? So what to the Minister of Labor is that we cannot have a country or a system where we have qualified, trained Bahamians in roles in this industry who are capable to perform the same skill levels that a foreigner is being hired to do. So the government of the Bahamas gave notice to all properties that we intend to aggressively deal with the issue of vacants of notices. The government of the Bahamas intend to aggressively outline the time period in which a Bahamian must be trained to fill a role, and the government of the Bahamas intends to be aggressive in requiring industries to identify a Bahamian as an understudy to fulfill that role over a period of time. So you won't be able to say that a Bahamian isn't qualified to do the role, because the company will be responsible for ensuring that Bahamian agree there will be a set period of time for that transition. And so we're going to slowly be unapologetic in the mobility of Bahamians, and not only the tourism industry, but the banking industry and the offshore banking industry in particular. So the reason why I think both you and I are doing the seltzer dance on the issue reflects how complex these issues are. That is not one set of realities. There are multiple realities that really forces the economy in the reality it is in today. So if you were to step back from the original conversation that we were having, where the IMF indicated that one, which is the first paragraph, the economic recovery of the Bahamas in the last 3 years have been remarkable. However, there are some existing realities that can emerge and that currently exist.
Name one for me.
The need to improve our productivity and build skills and build a skills gap is something that successive administrations knew exists, and it's why that we invested in institutions like the NTA. Is why that we expanding access to BTBI. Is why that we aggressively ensuring that Bahamians who are skilled have the access to mobility.
Are you taking up the recommendation of Peter Gowdy from the Labor Division of the Chamber of Commerce and Employers Federation for General Orders Reform?
What was his recommendation?
The general orders need to be reformed. I think.
You mean the public service, or you mean he's referring to the public service?
Now we're doing the mumbo. I'm talking about general orders. There's only one set of general orders, right? General orders for the public service. Politicians have general orders?
No, listen.
That's where they teach you all how to fill out public declarations?
Aaron, I only asking questions, I doubt I just,
Yeah, general orders. Peter Gowdy, the chair of the Labor Division of the Chamber of Commerce and Employers Federations, in recent labor reform consultations recommended that the government reform general orders.
Okay, so if you want me to, as a government spokesperson, if I'm going to respond to a question, I have to be absolutely assured of what I'm being asked. So what I'm being asked is to respond, yes, the government is going to always be committed to finding ways to identify how it improve the general orders. I mean, these things were written a very long time ago, and they have to reflect a modern Bahamas.
Mr. Ramanri, Radio the Time. I need to invite you back. I wanted to ask about the IMF asking government to publish the ownership of the companies they deal in business with. I wanted to the IMF recommending that more hotel rooms be built, especially when we have a housing crisis that seems as if nobody is worrying about that side. But I need you to come back. I need you to come back.
Let's come back. I'll come back next week.
Next week. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks so much. Yeah, okay.
And if you could come in studio, be good too.
I'll come in studio, yes, sir.
Good.
Right.
This has been Guardian Radio AM with CA Newry. Thank you very much, Aaron Green. Mr. Raming, I truly appreciate you making time to speak with us. Have a wonderful day.
You carry on like I don't like to dance.